مرحبا بكم. السلام عليكم جميعا. الحضور هنا.
Welcome to all of you and to our audience over Al Jazeera screen and on the platforms. Welcome to this 17th Al Jazeera Forum. The topic here is Trump's peace plan, objectives and prospects for success. This topic will be discussed with our guests, Dr. Mustafa Al-Barghouthi, Secretary General of Al Jazeera National Palestinian Initiative, Dr. Lu'ay Makki, Senior Researcher at Al Jazeera Center for Studies, Dr. Abdullah Shaji, Professor of Political Science at Kuwait University, and Joni Monayyar, political writer and researcher. We start with this discussion regarding Trump's peace plan, about its objectives and its chances of success. We start off with Dr. Mustafa Al-Barghouthi. Maybe we discussed this with you very often on Al Jazeera's bulletins regarding this plan, even before it was decided 4 months ago. But today, after all this time, and in terms of what has been achieved on the ground by the parties and what has been impeded, can we say that it is still viable and realistic? The guest says, Dr. Barghouthi says, it was supposed to be viable, but I believe it is called peace plan. But if we think deeply about it, it's not a plan, doesn't have the features of a plan, nor does it have peace. How can we talk about peace without, for example, mentioning the end of the occupation? How can we speak about peace without providing the basic human rights for the Palestinian people? So the fact is that the danger of this plan is not with what has been mentioned in it, but in what hasn't been mentioned in it, specifically what's happening in the West Bank and the settlers' expansion and the lawlessness and the terror of the settlers. But even the plan itself is not being applied. The first stage assumed full ceasefire. This has been announced, but the war still goes on. Israel violated the ceasefire at least 1,500 times till now, and it is still doing that, and we don't see any pressure from the US on Israel to stop this. So the question here is, if there was an agreement with hesitance on this project for one goal, which is stopping the brutal genocide war on Gaza, and the war hasn't stopped. So what's the justification for the plan? Also, opening the Rafah crossing, it was supposed to be open in the first phase, but it wasn't. Now it was open, but is it really open? This is done theoretically, but people still suffer whether to go in or out, and they are being humiliated, and the numbers are so scarce. Most dangerous is that Israel subjects those who come back to the gangs of its operatives. Also, the war is still ongoing in the West Bank, because the expansion of the settlements is unprecedented. We are speaking about 500 settlements and outposts. Have we heard anything from the US President on stopping all this that's taking place in the West Bank? I don't think so. So I think we are facing a big challenge. There is an open war against the Palestinian people, and we must remember that our struggle wasn't merely to stop the genocide, which is the most important issue in Gaza now, but to end the occupation and for the freedom of the Palestinian people. We ask Dr. Abdullah Shaji, if the reality is as described by Dr. Mustafa al-Barghouthi, then why this plan was put forward? What are its main and true objectives if it's not applied on the ground? The Israeli bombardment still goes on. The crossings have not been opened according to the uh, agreement or the peace plan. So, what are the goals of putting such a plan? Thank you. Greetings to all of you. Good evening to all of you. I'm happy to be here with you for the second time in Al Jazeera Forum, which is an academic platform, discusses the events of the hour in the region, and this time the forum is the biggest. So thank you to all the organizers, really great efforts. Before we delve into the plan, allow me, Mariam, to speak about Trump's mentality. His mentality is that he wants to be the master ceremony. He wants to be the leader. He wants to be number one. What is called, or the so-called, the Board of Peace is something vague, doesn't have any legitimacy. It confiscates the role of the UN and the Security Council and has no foundation. What is his plan? He is saying, you want to be president for life? Okay, then you have to pay $3 billion. How is there a board of peace which has war criminals as members? Netanyahu, he is wanted by the ICC and he is supposed to be handed over, and he still commits war crimes daily. And he is a member. Since what is called ceasefire, 560 Palestinians were martyred. 90% of them are elderly, women, and children. He is destroying the buildings. He started yesterday giving warnings, evacuate this building, etc. He has never applied anything from the first phase of the agreement. The Rafah crossing is supposed to be open. The aid should go in. So the mentality of Trump is that he wants to be the international man of peace under any slogan or under any issue. He wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize, yet he is mobilizing forces against Iran. You cannot make peace, yet you are preparing for war and threatening. You cannot make peace, and you are making a coalition with Netanyahu, and you are meeting him for the sixth time. The most official that Trump has met with is Netanyahu. I have made a study, but because of the lack of time, I will confine it. How can you kidnap a president of a country, yet you claim you want to make peace? How can you divide America internally? The U.S. now is divided. There are people in Minnesota, such as Somalis, who are targeted, and racism is exercised against them. Yesterday, he put Obama and his wife, portrayed them as monkeys in a video. So he has narcissism. So therefore he cannot be a president for the Board of Peace, which consists of 27 countries, and among them personas who are controversial. It is unknown what his goal is after he's finished with the presidency for 3 more years. Will he remain a president or chairperson for the Board of Peace? There is 1,500 violations of the ceasefire by Israel, yet there is not a single word against them. Also, Trump is involved in the Epstein issue. He may turn a blind eye to Netanyahu and his violations because he wants to distract on what's going on internally. Even Hart yesterday said that one of the members, Mark Rowan, he is an Israeli American billionaire. He has a relationship with Epstein. So you put terrorists, people who are involved with Epstein, people who have no relationship to Gaza or the Middle East, you bring them from Europe or East Asia. That is why from now on I announce, if I stay alive, that this board of peace is born dead, it is defunct, it is a failure.
يستطيع
Johnny Mnayer, if the peace board could not put an end to Israel's violations and did not manage to force the implementation of any of the peace plan, what's the justification for its continuation? And what choices do the Palestinians have if this peace board is not there? Thank you for the invitation. I cannot add much really to what's been said, but the Netanyahu project, the right wing's project of Israel, is to evacuate, to expel the Palestinian population from Gaza. We remember what Isaac Rabin said. I wish I could wake up one morning to find that Gaza has disappeared, swallowed by the sea. Even Trump has floated similar ideas when he talked about moving the Palestinians to Africa or the Sinai Desert or whatever. When there was pressure for a ceasefire, the Arab countries, and particularly Egypt and Qatar, pressed for putting an end to the killing, and Netanyahu, contrary to what we all thought that it could not happen in the 21st century, he continued his genocide, and Netanyahu sent his planes to assassinate the political leadership of Hamas, which was engaged in negotiations, and to intimidate Qatar. And because that attempt was doomed to failure, we had the peace plan. Yesterday we heard the Minister for Settlement Affairs in Israel said that there is no more phase 2 of the plan. We want to end this once and for all. Netanyahu, what does Netanyahu want? Netanyahu wants to either to destroy this plan, peace plan altogether, or to keep it for one sole purpose, and that is to expel the population of Gaza. We say that Trump worked for a ceasefire for internal and external purposes and for an initiative to turn Gaza into a Riviera. We ask, I'm Lebanese. When the war in Lebanon had ended, we had a region which was destroyed, which was the downtown of Beirut. We got a company called Solidaire for reconstruction. There were problems. This company had an idea that to give people who own the land, to give them equities in the project and shares. What worries me is what Israel could not achieve by blood and destruction, and that is to expel the population of the Gazan population, will be achieved through this peace plan. Israel wants to use this peace plan to dismantle the Arab countries surrounding Israel and to establish an industrial area in the area adjacent to Lebanon, the border region. And what consolidates this idea is what Israel has done was not accidental, that there is a senior Druze army officer who was appointed to run the the affairs of the Druze community in Israel and Lebanon and in Syria. Dr. Liqa Makki, when Trump approved the founding charter of the Peace Board, and every time he insists on Hamas disarming in return for reconstruction and other items on the peace land. This kind of a trade-off, if we can call it that, disarmament in return for the implementation of the rest of the plan and reconstruction, can it work in an environment like Gaza now? First of all, what is Trump's peace plan? It was the only plan which was accepted, and it was the only one which ended the war. Everybody wanted to end the war for humanitarian reasons. This plan ended it because of Trump's power and influence. But in politics, we say that that war is an extension, or politics is an extension of war with other means. The Trump's plan is the end chapter of the war on Gaza, when Netanyahu achieved most of what he wanted in Gaza. He reached a stage where he needed to end the war. Then comes Trump to be the peace hero and to put an end to this war. And the peace board is part and parcel of the essence of this war. So part of the war was to destroy Hamas, although the real reason is Gaza. Gaza should be destroyed, not Hamas. Hamas is a symptom of Gaza, a side effect. But you have to strip the entire resistance, not just Hamas, of its weapons, so that in the future there will be no force to resist the future steps which are going to be taken by Israel. The disarmament was in the peace plan. Netanyahu is not saying this in a vacuum. Netanyahu knows, he has a reference in the peace plan itself, and the peace plan gave the war and its objectives and international legitimacy through the Security Council, and it gave Israeli objectives the legitimacy they wanted. For this reason, the danger, regardless, it has not stopped the expulsion. We are still at the beginning here. It really gives Israel what it has wanted in Gaza, and that is the destruction of the resistance, and secondly, make Gaza unable to resist, and ultimately to separate Gaza from the West Bank. And Dr. Mustafa is talking about the war being continued in the West Bank, of course, because the peace plan has nothing to do with the West Bank. They want to liquidate the Palestinian cause and to lend the international references to end the Palestinian cause no longer are there. The 338, 242 and other UN resolutions now are non-existent, because practically speaking the peace plan by Trump will take care of all these things. So then will everything what the Palestinian national cause has done since 1974, since the recognition of the PLO as the sole representative of the Palestinian people and Arafat as its leader, will be all destroyed. this is part and parcel of a general Middle East context. We are still at the beginnings of, we haven't got yet to the essence of, and the heart and the core of this case. Gaza and the Palestinian cause is part of the bigger context that we all see. One of the manifestations of that is Gaza. There were many questions posed. Some we will follow now, and it's like a survey. Our sister organization, Al Jazeera Direct or Al Jazeera Mubashir, posed questions to people, and this was prepared in a package. The Trump peace plan is, what is the purpose? What is the reason for? Aren't we able as Palestinians to establish our state within our borders? The Palestinian cause is going through a period of stagnation, and we are waiting for a new generation to revive it. Has it been done to rescue the Zionist entity from the international isolation? What do you think of the peace plan proposed by Trump in Gaza in collaboration with Israel? The state of disgruntlement faced by the world vis-à-vis America, this plan wants to rescue America from that. If international attempts fail, will this plan be the alternative? These are some of the questions posed by our viewers for us to discuss in this forum as a general idea behind these questions, and what we have sensed that there is a lot of skepticism regarding the chances of success for this plan, and will this plan end the Palestinian cause altogether? Dr. Mustafa al-Barghouthi, where is the Palestinian cause heading if this plan failed or succeeded? The fate of the Palestinian case has nothing to do with the peace plan. I know we don't have much time to explain everything, but the reality is the Israelis failed in ethnically cleansing Gaza, and it's failing in doing the same in the West Bank. And thanks to the Palestinian people's steadfastness, despite the huge sacrifices, and the Palestinian people are still determined to achieve their freedom. So therefore, the war is still going on. And just to think that this plan or other plans can end this war is just an illusion, because Israel, with the ruling party and the opposition, they all adopted the theory of decisively ending this. There is no middle medium solutions, because Israel wants the entire Palestine. Israel wants to settle in the entire territory of Palestine. Number three, Israel is turning towards fascism inside Israel, and it has its eyes on the entire region. So this is no longer a question pertaining to the Palestinians, but all the Arabs and Muslims. Number five, the essence of this struggle, that the Israelis will not succeed unless they achieve ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. By the way, the number of Palestinians is more than the Israelis, the Jews, by some 200,000. So if we, as long as we remain on our land, the Israeli project would fail. So therefore, The priority is to maintain the presence and the continual existence of Palestinians, and secondly, to resist the Israeli colonial settlement, and number three, to continue reaching out to the international solidarity in the world with the Palestinian people. Trump didn't wake up one morning and decided to end the war. Trump said it before the Knesset that he said, I came to break this isolation Israel finds itself in. And what led to that is the steadfastness of the Palestinian people against Israeli aggression and the call for a sanctions regime to be imposed on Israel. Trump is no longer talking about a solution. He's only talking about some arrangements in Gaza. When they talk about disarmament, they want to put the Palestinians in a defensive position as if to portray us as criminals and perpetrators. The Israelis do not want to disarm Hamas and its arms. It wants to disarm the Palestinian people of their right to defend their causes. So the whole world, for example, what happened in Greenland, Venezuela, and Iran was preceded by the aggression in Gaza. And because people turned a blind eye to Gaza, they're suffering the consequences. The Palestinian people will never give up on their national rights. They will never leave their country.
خطة في الوقت الحالي.
The Gaza Strip is in the essence of this issue, and the question is to Shaiji. Now, for this Board of Peace, as if it is confronting those international institutions and establishing for a stage where it will become an alternative for those United Nations institutions. So what is the goal that is to be achieved in this front, whether from the Palestinian point of view or outside? Trump sees those international institutions and treaties as a liability. He exited the UNESCO, the Paris Agreement, UNRWA. He sees all those as a liability, and he thinks that they exploit America to the point that Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, launches an SOS appeal saying, we are corrupt financially, we have no money due to the situation. So Trump here raises a question, why some European countries did not enter into this Board of Peace. Why? France, Britain, the ally, Germany, they did not get engaged in this because he is confiscating the right of the United Nations as if we are back to the colonial days for life. So this is not a democracy. He has marginalized the UN decisions, and there is no Palestinian state, there is no accountability. The occupation remains, and Trump is clapping for it. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, the White House and the Pentagon announced, look at this scandal. Yesterday, the White House, in a tweet, Trump, the one who presents himself as a man of peace, and in his inauguration speech, he spoke about stopping 8 wars, and the ninth will be the Sudan war. His administration agreed after 120 days of Israel violating the ceasefire, the White House decided to provide $6 billion aid in military aid to Israel, added to 3.3 billion to $550 million aid to the defense systems of Israel in 2026. So $10.5 billion aid to Israel, support, etc. It includes JDM bombs, which is Buster bunker bombs. The weight of it is 2,000 kilograms, similar to the bomb that was dropped yesterday on a house in Khan Yunis and destroyed it. So this is what Trump will give to Israel, and he tells us he is a man of peace and he's a chairman of the board of peace. Anyone who wants peace doesn't do all these things, doesn't support the aggressor. So we see that Netanyahu visited him 6 times. So this board of peace is just a show. He wants to be in the center of attention, the best important president. He is a narcissist par excellence. So we cannot count on him, and he is undermining the Arab regime when he allows Israel to bomb 4 countries and now bombing Iran, Yemen, and Lebanon. We see so many violations against Lebanon and Gaza also, and the yellow line is being expanded westward, and no one questions him. So when you don't see what the aggressor is doing as undermining peace, then you are a partner, and you try to meet with him in the White House and listen to him. So there is not a glimpse of hope that this board of peace will have any impact whatsoever. The Palestinian wants a dignified life. Yes, they have no water, no food, nothing. And Trump sees Hamas as the problem and not the Zionist aggression against the Palestinians. And in the West Bank even, which is the forgotten war, Dr. Mustafa, you know better than us, but the upcoming war is going to be in the West Bank. In the context of this plan and the Board of Peace implementation of its provisions, there are problems regarding the international force who was supposed to manage the Gaza Strip, but there is now a problem regarding the nature of their mission. So what are the real goals when the Americans speak about the formulation of this force and the Israelis have reservations and rejections? Until now, the picture is unclear. So does that have any plans for more or beyond Gaza? Definitely. We have learned through experience that when there is contradiction in the positions, at least in the media, between the American projects and the Israeli projects, Israel always wins. For reasons we don't know, maybe because it is stronger than the US, or maybe the US is colluding to let Israel win. But anyway, when Israel rejects this force, they want it to be formulated according to their wishes. They reject Turkey, for example, because there might be a conflict and competition between Turkey and Israel in the future. So they don't want Turkey inside Gaza. I agree with what Mr. Barghouti said, that defending the West Bank and defending the Israeli projects in the nearby countries start in defense in Gaza. So we have to help the people of Gaza. We can only respect their steadfastness, which is scarce under the circumstances. Yet they are still holding on to their land. They get killed under the tent, yet they remain on their soil. But in defense of the West Bank, and not to let Israel do what it wants, we have to help the people of Gaza to remain in their land in many ways. Second, this defense protects me in terms of the disintegration project of Israel. In the Arab world, we are unique of the diversification, which could be a wealth for us and a source of power to face Israel. Israel could succeed to make it a disaster. Israel is the one who put the ambush of Suwaida, and we saw what happened. And here there is responsibility upon us as Arabs and academics and intellectual people to make this diversification as a source of gain for us and not as a gateway for disintegration between us. Yes, the beginning is through resisting Israel in Gaza, through keeping the Palestinians in Gaza, and also the Trump's peace plan to be implemented. And we should not abandon it because we don't know what the future holds for us. Dr. Makki, Trump succeeded in passing the idea of the Board of Peace, despite some countries not blessing it, some of them European countries. So if he succeeded to instill it, yet there is still rejection against it, how will he keep it as an idea, especially in the Gaza Strip when he is facing resistance in Gaza and facing impediments put forward by the Israelis against implementing any provision? The Board of Peace did not fail because many countries agreed to it, most of them Arab and Muslim countries, even from South America. Some even paid the $1 billion for a lifetime membership. I don't know for how long would that be, because Trump himself will not remain. So the Board of Peace exists as long as Trump exists, because it will be protected by the power of the US. But what is its role, internationally speaking? This is something else, because he wants it to replace the UN. This is his ambition, and maybe he would achieve that, because the international system now, by the way, is under suspicion and doubtful. So he wants to put the alternatives starting now. And we should think that it is possible. We should not take it lightly, because this man is described as weird sometimes, but he does planned things, and they come about at the right time. For Palestine, Gaza specifically, the Board of Peace, or what it's called, the Board of Peace is an executive tool, and they have a committee that is doing what's needed to rebuilding and establishing the Riviera and the disarmament. Disarmament is serious. So the issue of disarmament, I want to say something. Now there is a conflict between the resistance that rejects that and others, meaning Israel and the US and the board itself, which says this is part of the mechanism and the peace or the rebuilding in return for disarmament. So for how long? And what is the nature of the rejection? there will be more struggle and suffering because the Palestinian people is captives now by the Israelis and the Americans. Hamas agreed to the peace deal to protect the lives of the Palestinians. That's why the feeling, or especially by the nationalists, is that the arms is the resistance, but it's not. Meaning, what if Israel succeeds in disarmament or containing it or letting down the arms, throwing down the arms? What will happen? Does that mean that it's successful and the resistance succeeded? The resistance 50 years ago did not have arms, yet it existed. And anyone who has a rifle at that time is as if he owns a surface-to-air missile. So Arafat in 87 in Baghdad, at the beginning of the Stone Rebellion, he said he has Kalashnikov or 500 pieces of Kalashnikov. These are rifles. So resistance is not contained in arms. Arms come and go. It is achievable. In fact, the political cycle comes in a certain way because some need you. So we in this region see the transformations in the world. So we should not pressure the resistance that you should disarm. No, they have done their share and more. They have done more. What they have done in 2 years is something similar to a miracle. The infrastructure they have established and the resistance they carried out. Now the whole nation should turn into a spirit of resistance, meaning the enemy is not triumphant. The enemy won the round, or so it appears, but truly they did not become triumphant. Israel's legitimacy now is dubious and doubtful. The Palestinian people, which is one of their attributes, the Israelis are unhappy, and it is a misfortune for them that there is a Palestinian people. The Palestinians are an adamant generation. Third and fourth generation still say, I am a Palestinian. This doesn't exist in so many peoples. So this issue that we see nowadays, we see Trump is rejoicing. Yes, they have arms, but peace is not something that is real. America is Israel. So if the arms remain, good. If it's gone, we will not go.
يريد أن يطرح سؤالا على
Open the floor for questions. If you have any questions to enrich the discussion, please, madam, go ahead. Assalamu alaikum. Basma, I am from Algeria. My question is directed to Dr. Liqa Makki. After the publishing of the Epstein files, do you think Trump is the appropriate man for peace? God Almighty says in the Quran that do not resort to peace when you have the upper hand. If we take Algeria as an example, if the resistance fighters in the Algerian Revolution handed over their weapons, would Algeria be independent today? We take a group of questions, then we'll allow our panelists to respond. Good afternoon. My name is Mayt Hassoun. I'm a Palestinian journalist. I don't have a question. I just want to confirm the idea that when Israel, makes it a condition of disarmament, and what does Israel mean? Is it the tangible weapons, the AK-47s, the rockets, the drones? Israel does not mean that. What Israel means, Israel wants to strip the Palestinians of their willpower, and this is what they tried for 76 years and they failed, and they will fail again and again like any other colonial power. In your title, you say the Trump's peace plan and the chances of success. The chances of success for whom? What chances of success are we talking about? It's not the kind of success that we should discuss as a peace plan. It's a colonial plan. We should discuss the consequences of that for the Palestinian people. The plan came in the first place to liquidate the Palestinian cause altogether. For us, whether this plan is successful or not, it will be of negative consequences. These questions and what you raised when Dr. Liqa Makki talked about the objective is not the resistance arms. We take a final question. Abdullah Mala'ab, a Lebanese journalist and from the Socialist Progressive Party in Lebanon. Dr. Munayir talked about Suwaida and the Israeli project with some tours in Suwaida, in Syria, in Palestine, and we're talking about this peace board. The panelists from Kuwait talked about the Arab countries who refuse to take part. We know some Arab countries have no choice but to join the plan or support it, and especially some countries believe in the unity of the Arab world, but they were forced to accept it. In the American policy, there is lobbying. Do we need lobbying in the Arab world? And what do countries which are facing Israel and the dismantlement of the region, you as academicians, writers, and opinion makers, what can you do to support these countries, which seems to me these countries are incapable of doing anything? And in this framework, are we in need of a bigger regional role which involves Arab countries and Turkey and maybe Iran after the Iranian role has ended? This is enough number of questions. We have few minutes left, and maybe the questions rotate more or less on the same thing. Is Trump the man of peace that he says he is? And also to link that with the Epstein files, and we going back, it seems, to the old point that does Trump really want the interests of the Palestinian people, the Gazan people, or the region? Definitely. Trump is not a man of peace, definitely, and he is not a man that can be trusted, not because of him as a peacemaker, because he is the president of the United States of America. There'll never be peace with Israel, although the peace plans and many previous plans that the Arab countries accepted, although they were very unfair to them, and the aim was to reach a two-state solution. Israel never accepted that, and so what plan does Trump have? He wants to destroy this side and that side. He is a man who likes shows, and he is a performative politics. The people who brought him to power may have a plan because he can execute plans well, so we should not underestimate this administration when they call him this and that. And the revolution in Algeria started in 1954. Jazeera became independent in the early 60s. Algeria is a big country and it has the geography, and the French colonialism, especially when de Gaulle came to power, was in a different. And it was impossible for the resistance in Algeria to give up its weapons because everything was different. And the occupation, the French occupation, lasted 130 odd years until the revolution came. So disarming the resistance should not be the... Israel will turn it into... For this reason we should not accept, because Israel wants this image. That give up your arms and everything will end. We should not allow this image to be consolidated, because the same man who carried the rifle now was a boy when he threw stones at the Israelis. When Mr. A questioner asked, should we have lobbies, and why can't we do that? When they asked me what should the Arab countries do, I said, defend yourselves, defend your interests. Before talking about supporting the Palestinians, by the way, and unfortunately, regrettably, there is a gap between knowledge and cognition and understanding. When we say 12% of the Gazan people have been martyred, you know what this means? If you apply the same context to the United States, it will mean 35%. If you apply it to India, then it will mean 176 million people. The threat faced by the Gazan people is faced by every Arab country, and the question should be, how can they defend themselves against not American hegemony but Israeli hegemony? This peace plan, we Palestinians consider ourselves that we are in a battle with this plan, this peace council. We are an active party in this, and we should use all tools. Finally and briefly, when they talk about disarming the resistance. What they want to disarm the Palestinians, not of their arms, but their right to resistance, their will. Why they pressurized the PA, the Palestinian Authority? They wanted the Palestinian people to give up their right they practiced in 120 years, and I promise you we will not give up the struggle.
Dr. Shaiji, speaking about the supposedly Arab role, which is to bring about a breakthrough, there was a mediation role that was recorded in this issue, which had a role in the ceasefire in Gaza, at least during the last two agreements. Why this role hasn't been activated, or can it be activated and move to wider spaces that are more influential in those issues? Let me greet Qatar, commend Qatar for its great efforts since day one, and also what we see today from other countries who want to support this trajectory, especially GCC countries and Egypt, despite the criticism to Egypt that it could have done more because it is an Arab country that is big and on the border of Gaza. Of course, the Arab position, we always say, and we say, where are the Arab countries? But the Trumpist bullying and the limitless support of Trump to Israel, and he says peace through strength and might is right, and he threatens Hamas, either you hand over your arms willfully or we will take your arms. Israel was unable for more than 2 years to disarm Hamas. How will a US general come and disarm Hamas? He wants to use this as an excuse and a pretext so that Netanyahu will not start phase 2. Gaza or Lebanon cannot disarm. Israel wants to make the resistance in the Arab world subservient, and the regimes as well. All the Arab regimes are looking to see who is next. Israel bombed Tunisia and Algeria and the ships in the sea to the surrounding countries, to Yemen, 10 countries. So who's next? That's the question. They see the Arab weakness as emboldened them to become more of bullies, and they want Trump to support this extremist behavior led by Netanyahu and the most extremist government in the history of the occupation. Also, the Palestinians have no role in the Board of Peace. Even Netanyahu rudely issued a statement a week ago objecting to the symbol of the committee. This symbol, which is the lion Salah ad-Din, you should change it to another logo. They are so arrogant even to discuss this to govern Gaza. So this bullying is because the Arabs are weak, and Trump wants to prove that Israel is the victim and it is the one that should not be taken to trial, and we should stand next to it and with it forever, and Hamas is the evil that should pay the price. He threatened Hamas, either you hand over your arms or you will see what will happen to you. Dr. Abdullah Shaiji described Arab weakness and the current Arab governments in the region. Were they really facing tough choices, or did they really choose that their role to be within those confines, and thus the results could turn against them themselves in the future? Maybe that, and maybe their weakness, and maybe they are afraid of regional conflicts which are between regimes. But instead of speaking about the brutality of Israel and what Israel does or what it wants in order to displace us or fragment us, we should agree more on putting a future serious plan to enable the Palestinians to remain on their soil. This people is unique throughout history. Dr. Makki said that, and we have in Lebanon an example. We have hosted many people on our land, and the Palestinians from 70 to 80 years ago. The Palestinian people are still holding on to their language and identity, and that shows that they are people of determination, which is the most potent power they have, and we should enhance that. Today, those Arab regimes should put a plan to protect themselves together through enabling the Palestinians to remain in their land. We should not forget also that in the near history, when the Palestinians were displaced and bombed, the Palestinian became to a potent power and weapon. So we should enable the Palestinians. Thank you, Mr. Joni Mnair, Dr. Joni Mnair. Thank you, Dr. Abdullah Shaiji. And also thank you, Dr. Mustafa Al-Barghouthi. And we also thank you, Dr. Liqa Makki, each was with their own titles. Thank you all. This session will be followed by a short break for 15 minutes for the audience, and then we will resume after that session 3, entitled The Palestinian Cause in a World Moving Toward Multipolarity, presented by Zain Al-Abidin Tawfiq, our colleague. That is after the break. And here in conclusion, we thank our viewers through Al Jazeera Mubashir and through the digital platforms, and we thank the audience here. Thank you all. See you in a little bit.